Alrighty, Colts fans. As you can see, we kicked Jake off of the show here, and I replaced him with Eddy McGilvra, one of the best D-line coaches in the country. And Eddie's a guy who, I talked to him a lot last year about Kwity Paye, and since then, I mean, you've gotten pretty big with the coaching that you're doing in the offseason stuff, man. I mean, how's all this been for you, and who are some of your top guys that you've trained, just to give you some background before we start talking?
Yeah, no, it's been really fun this offseason. I've been busier than normal, but it's taken me some fun places in Dallas right now with a bunch of veterans from a bunch of different teams. Obviously, a lot of Cowboy guys because they're all local. But Dayo is out here right now. He was just with me in LA for about a week before coming out here. Was with Kwity all spring for about 2 months, mixing in with some veterans out in Los Angeles from the Chargers and the Rams guys. So it's been fun, man. It's been a good time.
Yeah. And the main reason why I brought you on here is because I've talked to you so many times about Kwity Paye. But now you got to work with Dayo, and Dayo's the guy that is kind of under the radar right now for a lot of Colts fans and Colts writers and stuff, because we didn't really get to see him last year at all. But from what you got to see of him, out in LA and just working with him, I mean, how did he look?
He's extremely twitchy. It's like he's very sudden, and being a guy that can rush from, outside and inside. I think he's very versatile in that sense, and fresh legs coming off of an injury. A lot of the times, that'll really show you, how much you really want to be in this business. Not being able to play almost a full year, only getting the end there a little bit. I think he played like maybe a little bit towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
But he's really excited. He's been mixing in with a lot of big time veterans, just kind of picking and choosing what he sees, chopping it up with them, taking a couple things from everybody. But he's definitely the whole package, man. He's extremely strong at the point of attack, and he's a long body. He's got a lot of length, and you can see why the Colts, took a shot on him early in the draft. I've been impressed. I mean, the guys that he works with, like pretty much everybody in this group here in Dallas has been like, yo, a kid can go, so it's impressive. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was Sheldon Rankins, who's with the Jets now, but he's I think going into his 7th year as a vet right now. We were at UCLA for a couple of days, and I brought Dayo out, and Sheldon was like, young fella, like, keep doing what you're doing, like it's right there. So I think Colts fans should be really excited for him to have a healthy year.
Yeah, no, and that's the biggest thing. And I love that you said he's looking twitchy and he's looking quick, and obviously there's some videos and stuff that you've been posting on your social media, and I think that's one of the more interesting things for me, because he kind of came into camp and last offseason like looking bigger than what he did on film in college. I think he was like in the 280s last year. But is he kind of like around like 270s now? Did he tell you kind of what his weight's at, or how he's, what his process is?
Yeah, I think he said he was sitting like right around 275, 280.
Okay.
He doesn't look it, man. He holds it well. I think I was just surprised how twitchy he was for somebody so lanky.
His arms are, I think it was it was like 37 inches or something like that. Arms are 36.
Because he's a long body.
Yeah. And so you got to work with Dayo, you got to work with Kwity. Compared to kind of what you had with Kwity, Kwity, you've had this rapport for so long with him. When you got a guy like Dayo, how much was it like trying to get to, okay, we're going to do some things that kind of play to your strengths, play to what you want to do? Did you watch some film with Dayo, or kind of what was your whole process and stuff with him?
So we've been in just social media conversations, Instagram, ever since he was a senior at Vandy.
Yeah.
Before he graduated. And, I was always a fan of his game. You could see he jumps off the film like right away with his suddenness. And we just held conversation and eventually knew that we were going to connect. And then when we did, it was like, I remember we saw each other walking up to the field, and like, it was like that moment. It was like, finally, it was cool. It was a cool feeling. We already had a little bit of chemistry from that, but we haven't been able to get in the film room yet. I think that's something that, eventually down the road, further in his career, as he as he develops and starts getting into a more of a routine in his off seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He'll start to mix that in like my other veterans do. But that's a tough thing for guys transitioning from rookie year to second year.
Right.
It's usually your first actual taste of a true off season as an NFL player. So you really try to figure out, where I'm going to be in the spring or where I want to be in the summertime. Who do I want to work with? What do I want to get done? And I think once you find that routine and you're able to settle in a little bit, you're able to calm down and really focus on what you're trying to get better at. So I think that'll come year 2 to 3 for him more so than this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I think this offseason he was just really trying to shake the dust off after not playing as much for a full year and being able to be ready to go once training camp starts.
Yeah. And you and I talked a lot in the offseason about how, the Colts have Yannick, they have Kwity Paye, they have DeForest Buckner, and we've been pretty excited just looking at that group of guys. But we always were like, they need that one more guy, one more guy on passing downs that can kind of come in and also be productive. I mean, from your work with Dayo, do you think, he can be that one more guy?
Yeah, Dayo is that guy, especially in the system that the Colts have transitioned to with the attacking front of, like a couple wide 9s, wide 7s, letting their defensive ends get vertical. And they need those 3-tech, those 4-tech pass rushers. And I think having, it was funny because we were talking about slide protection and kind of where offenses like to set their slide to. And I looked at him and I was like, you're not going to ever get a slide, bro. Like you have Buck on the other side. I was like, so you need to take advantage of that. I was like, you should already know what's happening and set up your rushes from there. But yeah, to answer your question, man, he is that guy. If all goes well and he can stay healthy, I would expect a pretty big year from him.
Awesome. And then the last guy, obviously, we always got to come back to Kwity talk whenever I'm talking with you. And I know I've always got you saying great things about him in all my articles and stuff. But just for the people listening, for the people watching here on YouTube, what are your expectations for Kwity Paye this season across from Yannick going into year 2?
I mean, he knows what's up. He knows like it's time to go. He had left some opportunity on the table last year, missed a couple sacks. I think his numbers would have been sitting right around like 6 to 8. If he would have finished a couple more times, but I think he understands now like it's time to go. He's really, really worked his ass off this offseason more than ever. And it's showing. It's showing he's in the best shape of his life. So football is an interesting game though. A lot of it is luck, so I'm expecting Pro Bowl type year for Kwity.
Yeah.
Especially in the AFC, it's going to be a very high stacked pass rush group, as you can see from all the changes happening around, even in like the AFC West alone. So it's going to be tough for him to get that, but I think he has that in him. So we've talked a lot about it, and even the other day, I was like, you just keep locked in, keep doing what you're doing. It's going to pay off.
Awesome. Eddy, I appreciate you jumping on the show. And it's the first time I think we've talked face to face. We've been texting and calling each other.
Yeah, the phone calls, man. Yeah, I know. It's actually good to see a face to the voice,
Yeah, man. Yeah. But keep doing what you're doing. Keep growing all this. And I'm excited to see obviously the rest of the work you're doing this offseason, but next offseason with Dayo again and with Kwity again and just more Colts guys get with you. I think it's a great thing that you're kind of building that kind of pipeline with Colts players right now. And I think Colts fans are starting to see it too, and they're flooding to your Twitter stuff right there. You guys can follow Ed there on Twitter at D-Line Coach Ed. He posts a lot of videos of guys that he's working with and such. But yeah, coming up, guys, here on the Locked On Colts podcast, Jake and I are going to dive into the games of Kwity Paye and Dayo Odeyingbo and talk about why these breakout seasons are probably going to happen.